All right, we're back with another overtime episode number 30. And hey, Merry Christmas, everybody. Hope you had a good Christmas. Hope you got everything you wanted. We're now settling down. It's the end of the day. Gotta wait a whole nother year till we do it again. I always found it was super depressing, like the after Christmas is done, and then you're like, all right, well, now we gotta wait a whole nother year, you know. But I hope you had a good Christmas. And to cap it off, we're gonna talk about Santa's Sleigh from 2005, starring the one and only Bill Goldberg, best known as just Goldberg, who obviously was one of the top stars of WCW back in the day. He's been in WWE. He's had two runs there. And now he's kind of a bigger deal, I guess. He comes in and wrestles every couple months or whatever. But I think this is only the second movie I've watched that Goldberg's in. He's in The Longest Yard, the remake with Adam Sandler. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because that movie had a whole bunch of... It had Stone Cold in it. Kevin Nash was in it. The Great Khali was in it. But anyway, Santa's Sleigh, 2005. And I couldn't get into this one. I don't know if I just wasn't in the right mood to watch or something. Like, on paper, it seems like one of the stupid movies that I should like, you know? But I couldn't get fully into it, so I'm going to rock a 4 for Santa's Sleigh. And I know there's a lot of... this is one of the movies that, like, I know gets some love. Like, people, people are like, oh, it's just a nice, stupid holiday movie. Which, to be fair, it is. But like I said, I just couldn't get fully into it. So, anyway, hey, spoiler warning. Sit back, relax. I'm going to ruin everything about Santa's Sleigh if you've never seen it. So, you have been warned. Movie opens up and we are at a Christmas party, and it's a star-studded event. We got Chris Kattan's there. The dad from Elf is in there, who's in a whole bunch of stuff. I can't remember his name right now. And I'm pretty sure the lady who's in that, like, The Nanny and Me, or whatever is it called, that has that, like, or whatever laugh. What's her name? Fran Drisher? I think that's it. But I'm pretty sure that she's one of the people there. Yeah, it is her. But we open up and we're at a Christmas party. We get Chris Kattan, like, talking to his wife next to him, and he's like, for Christmas, I'm going to be a loyal, loving husband and stuff like that, you know? The dad from Elf, his wife is the lady from The Nanny, and he's like, I hope this turkey, is moist this year or whatever, and she does, like, the classic, like, oh, moist, wouldn't that be nice? It's almost like we skip foreplay and stuff, and so, as they're saying grace, Catan and the nanny are, like, touching each other under the table and stuff. And and when the dad from Elf sees it going on, he has a great line that I like.
Listen, you half a fag.
And that made me laugh. But just as they're about to dine, that's a weird way. Just as they're about to dig into their dinner, Goldberg, playing Santa, jumps in, and man, the lady from The Nanny gives the wildest line delivery I've ever heard in my life, which is,
Santa?
Yes, Virginia.
and I was like, what was that? Can we go back, please?
Santa?
Goldberg immediately starts fighting. He sets the nanny on fire, her hair, so then she's all bald, and then he drowns her in a tub of eggnog. which eggnog is delicious. Shout out to eggnog. I should get some eggnog for this episode. Oh, all right. We're good to go. I got the eggnog. But, good Lord, that's delicious. He drowns her in eggnog. He, like, stabs the dad from Elf's hands to the table with, like, forks or something. Chris Kattan's wife tries to run away, and he throws a star that was, like, on top of the tree into her back to kill her. Chris Kattan is like, "You want to go, buddy?" And he starts flexing, and Goldberg just, like, kicks him in the chest into a cabinet that breaks, and that kills him, apparently. And then finally, he goes over to the dad from Elf, who is still has his hands stabbed onto the table, and he takes the turkey leg, shoves it into his mouth, and then slams his head down onto the table. And that's the opening of the movie. We get opening credits, where we see what will be explained to us later, but it's drawings of this bet that an angel and Satan have later, or not Satan, Santa have later, that we'll get into more. And then we see that was like in 2000 or 1005, the year 1005 or whatever. And then we see through time him giving presents to everyone, century after century. After the opening credits, we're introduced to our main character, who I don't know his name. He's like a 16-year-old or something like that. And he works at this deli shop, and he is currently talking to this mean old lady who is just bickering with him the whole time. She doesn't like the prices of the meat and all this stuff. She finally pays for a sandwich, and as she's leaving, the deli shop owner, who is Jewish, is like, "Happy holidays," you know? And she's like, "Don't say that political crap. You say Merry Christmas, you know?" So he's like, "All right, Merry Christmas." And she goes, "Thank you. Now go fuck yourself." And she turns around, and then the other main character of this movie, who is the girl that's the same age as the guy who's the main character, is sitting there, and she's like, "Fucking whore." And I was like, whoa, you know? So she leaves, and then as she's driving home, we see Santa, who doesn't have a reindeer, but he has like a giant white bison, that you know, that's all he has on his sleigh. But he's behind her, and he's like, "Move, bitch! Get out of the way!"
Move, bitch! Get out of the way!
And she like flips him off, and she's like, "Go fuck yourself." So Santa drives her off the road, and she flips over and crashes into the snow. We go back to the deli shop, and the shop owner's like, "Hey, it's Christmas, kids, get out of here." He gives them like some gifts. He gives the girl like a snow globe of Wisconsin, and then the boy gets a clock that tells you all the times and all the different time zones and stuff. But the girl is like, "Hey, do you need a ride home?" And for some reason, he's like, "No, I got it." And he has like an electric scooter, but it's snowy, so he can't go anywhere. So she pulls up next to him in this truck, and she's like, "Now do you want to ride?" And he's like, "I guess, you know." So she gives him a ride to his house. We find out he's living with his grandpa. On the way there, I got pissed at this kid because he was talking about, you know, he's never been into Christmas. And, you know, he would always want, like, an Optimus Prime or a Castle Black or a Castle Grayskull or whatever. But he would always wind up with a stupid Easy Bake Oven. And I was like, "Hey, fuck you, buddy. Easy Bake Ovens are amazing. I don't know if any of you have ever had them, but you're damn right. Little Thomas had an Easy Bake Oven. And was making them shitty little pizzas and brownies and stuff, and it was amazing. But anyway, she drives into his grandpa's house. They get there. The kid goes in, and his grandpa's nowhere to be seen. He's walking around like, "Hey, grandpa, you know, where are you?" As he's doing that, the lights go out in the house. And he's like, "Oh, shit, what the fuck?" He goes to the basement where the circuit breaker is. And as the whole time he's still calling for his granddad or whatever, but he can't find him. As he's going to flip the switch, his granddad sneaks up on him and like grabs him, and it's your first like jump scare or whatever, you know. And he's like, Jesus Christ, granddad, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, sorry, I was messing around with the bunker, and when I was messing with the power, I flipped the wrong switch and killed the breakers to the house or whatever. And the kid's like, bunker? What do you mean? And the granddad's like, oh, and then just tries to walk away. So he follows him. He's like, is this one of your other crazy inventions, you know? In the very beginning of the movie and throughout the movie, we learn that everyone in town just talks about this uncle or this granddad like he's this crazy old man and stuff, right? And so he's got all these inventions. He's got this nutcracker that like shoots out nuts at like bullet speed and shit. He made a backpack with a record player on it with headphones so you could walk around and listen to music. And I was like, boy, that one, if if he would just see what you do nowadays, it would blow his mind. But yeah, and so he's talking to the granddad, and the granddad's like, don't worry about it. And the kid's like, no, tell me what the fuck is going on, you know? So the granddad's like, all right, follow me. Before we get to that scene, though, we get a scene of a mugger sneaking up on Goldberg Santa and trying to mug him. And he puts like a knife at his throat, and Goldberg just goes like, ha ha ha. And immediately he just beats the guy up. He's sucking on a candy cane, and he pulls out, and it's all sharp, and he sticks it in the guy's eye and slams his face up against the wall. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of the first like 40, 50 minutes of this movie is a lot of just mindless Goldberg Santa slaughter. So we go back to the grandpa and the kid, and the grandpa pulls out this big ass book, okay? And the kid goes, what is that, a Necronomicon? And I was like, how the fuck did you just say that word? Like Necronomicon is how he pronounced it. And I was like, why did they let him get away with pronouncing it like that? Why did no one say it was Necronomicon, you know? But the grandpa's like, nah, you know. So he starts reading the story about how every day or every year on the birth of Santa or something like that, I'm pretty sure that's what it was, there would be a bunch of death and tragedy, and no one could explain what was happening. And finally, they started to figure out, oh, hey, this must be Santa, you know? So, an angel from heaven came down and took the shape of a man in the 11th century to talk with Santa. But before we can find out what happens, the doorbell rings, so we have to stop the story. At the door, it's the girl from earlier. She comes in. She brought food for the granddad. I can't remember what it was, but her dad is like a super big NRA thing. That's like a thing through this movie, is that he's like Mr. NRA. And so it's like, it's something he hunted, right? But the granddad opens it up, and it looks disgusting, and flies are flying around it, and he goes, looks great, and puts the top back down, you know? So he walks off. She gives the guy a gun, and he has a great line when he gets this gun.
I don't mean to sound ungrateful, but what are you, fucking retarded?
And I was like, oh, fuck. And, but she goes, no, idiot, it's a transformer. So she takes it and folds it, and it's like a transformer gun. She's like, I don't know why he had it, but you know my dad, Mr. NRA, and it was down in her basement. So they start to spend Christmas together. We then go to a scene of Santa taking a pit stop at a strip club, and for some reason the bouncer tries to stop him from going in. I don't know why the bouncer tried to stop him, but he was like, hey, fat boy, where do you think you're going, you know? So Santa, like, flips him, punches him a couple times, and then takes a wreath from off of the door and puts it around the guy's neck and pulls up and breaks the guy's neck. He goes inside. He fondles some strippers. People try to fight him, so he just starts going ham. He pulls off a stripper pole and starts hitting people. He deflects this one guy who found a pickaxe from out of nowhere, and the guy ends up stabbing himself in the head with a pickaxe. And then he hands the stripper pole to another guy and then kicks it up into the air. So as the guy's holding it, it goes up into like an electricity box. And so the guy gets zapped to death. And he electrocutes that guy, and then he looks, and all the strippers and stuff are cowardly. They're in the corner. They're all scared. And then he like takes out a Santa grenade and throws it, and the strip club catches on fire. We learn later that all them people there died. So Santa's raking up bodies in this fucking movie. We go back to the granddad and the girl and the dude spending Christmas together. They're watching like NASCAR or something. He's like, all right, I'm going to get to bed. I need my beauty sleep. So he leaves. Then it's just the girl and the guy on the couch. And he's like, go ahead, you can say he's strange or something, And she goes, he's not strange, he's just a little odd. And for some reason, this kid gets super defensive about his granddad, even though the whole time he's been talking about how weird his granddad is too. And he's like, no, what's odd is being the owner of Rifle of the Month or whatever and having a bunch of endangered animals on your wall and stuff. And so he starts shit-talking her dad. So she's like, you know what, I'm going to leave. Call me when you want to act more mature. So she leaves. The kid then goes back into the room earlier where the story was and continues to read in it. And we get an actually super cool, like Rudolph the Reindeer style animation of the story, which is angel from heaven comes down in the shape of a man who clearly watching it. It's the granddad in animation form. Like, spoiler. The granddad ends up being an angel later, but they weren't trying to hide it at all with this animation. But the granddad or the angel comes down from heaven. He makes a bet with Santa to see who can basically, what is the curling? That's the sport, right? And there's a hole in the ice where Santa's fishing, and he makes a bet with Santa to see who can get their rock closest to the hole without going in. If the angel wins, then Santa must be good for 1,000 years and give presents to little boys and girls and all that shit. And if Santa wins, then he or the angel has to go down to hell. Also, we find out in this moment that Santa is the son of Satan. So there's that whole thing in this movie. Santa goes first. He gets it like right at the edge, perfect. But then, of course, the granddad who goes last, he rolls it and just hits Santa's rock into the hole, so Santa loses. And so for the last 1,000 years, Santa has been forced to be a good person and give people presents and shit. And wouldn't you know it, it was exactly 1,000 years ago that bet took place. So then the kid goes on a Santa tracker site, which I don't know if any of you ever use those, or it used to be just on the news. They would have a Santa tracker, like Santa's here now, and they would track him. But he goes on there because now he's like, oh shit, Santa is evil, He goes on there and he goes, hey, is this Santa tracker real? And the admin or whatever responds to him and says, first tell me how old you are. And so the kid types back, I'm 16. And then the admin types back, no, and neither is Santa. He's like, why haven't your parents discussed this yet? And that made me giggle. The kid goes to sleep. Then we get a real random scene of these kids who are like cussing. They're like, shit, it's Christmas. Can we open our motherfucking presents? And the parents are like, yeah, go ahead. See what Santa got you. And Santa got them, I guess, a bomb or something because their heads explode, And then the grandma who's sitting there goes, fuck, and it's supposed to, the old lady's cussing, But anyway, that scene was just randomly thrown in there. We go, and Santa is now at the deli shop that the kids worked at. And he's knocking on the door, and the deli guy is in there, and he's like, hey, we're closed. Chinese is right across the street. Go bother them, you know. But Santa doesn't want to hear it, so he busts in through the door. The door's glass, so he just, like, punches through it and steps in. And then as he gets in, the deli guy's like, you came to the wrong store, and he starts throwing, like, I don't know, it sounds like rocks, but I think it's a food of some type, but he's throwing at him. Santa, like, throws a soda can back at him, and they're just throwing shit at each other. And then Santa just decides to go full Goldberg, and he spears the guy through the glass glass case where the food is, and he spears him into the wall. And then he picks up what I have written down in my notes as a Hanukkah candle, because I couldn't remember what the name of it is. It a menorah? Were the 12 candles? What is that called? But he picks it and he stabs the guy to the wall. Hold on, I gotta look up what this is called. Yeah, menorah. So shout out menorahs, right? But he stabs the guy to the wall, and then as he's about to leave, he notices on the wall next to him that there's a picture of the main kid and the granddad standing there, and he's like, you know. So he goes walking out, and now Granddad actually has a mission. Or not Granddad, Santa. After that, the main kid goes to a gun store to buy something. He ends up buying, like, gum smoke or something weird like that. But I'm not sure why he went there. But as he gets there, Debo from Friday is working behind the counter, or... also, he was obviously Zeus in No Holds Barred, starring alongside Hulk Hogan. So shout out to Zeus. I think he died like last year or the year before or something. So R.I.P. Debo. But as he's there talking to Debo, he hears on the radio behind him that there's been an incident at the deli shop or whatever, and he's like, "Oh no, Mr. whatever his name is," right? So he goes running. As he walks in, we see the guy still on the wall with the menorah stuck through his neck. But somehow, he's still able to be alive enough at this point to go, hey, Santa is real. I don't know how he was able to do that, but he does. So he tells the kids Santa's real. Cops show up. They immediately start making, like, kosher jokes and shit. Like, they're not really taking it very seriously. But they are like, hey, kid, we got to take you downtown. You know, you're here. We got to ask you some questions, right? So they take the kid to the police station. And the kid does not do a good job defending himself, because he immediately goes to the police captain and starts telling him that Santa's real and he's killing people and stuff. And the police captain's like, what are you talking about? And then the kid's like, listen, my granddad told me, you know, all this stuff. And immediately the guy's like, oh, your granddad, that's all I needed to hear, you know. He's like, get out of here. And, you know, before I arrest you for making up stories and wasting our time or all this shit. So the kid leaves, and he gets picked up by the girl. And as they drive away, we cut back to the police department, and the police captain's getting a knock on his door. And when he opens it up, it's Santa, and Santa, like, takes a stun gun and puts it on his dick and kills the guy or something. And then we see he's killed all the cops in the police station. We go back to the kids who are driving away, and a cop is now behind them and pulling them over. And so, as they pull over and they're waiting there, and she's like, what is it with you and cops? They keep, you know, coming after you or whatever. The kid looks up in the rearview mirror, and we see Goldberg walking towards him, and he's like, oh, it's Santa, you know? So they started driving away. Santa's chasing after him. She's like, hey, grab the shotgun from under the seat. Once again, this is her dad's truck, so Mr. NRA, you know, he's got the shotgun. He grabs the shotgun. He goes to look back, and he doesn't see Santa, and they're like, where'd he go? And then, of course, he pops up on the hood, and he's on top of the truck somehow. So she's swerving, trying to get him off. The guy, like, doesn't know how to load the shotgun, so she's having to tell him everything to do. He finally gets it loaded and aims back and is able to get a shot on Santa that knocks him off of the truck. They drive away. And they drive all the way back to Grandpa's house to lay low in the bunker because they've looked, and that clock that the guy had given earlier, they see it's 3 hours till midnight in the North Pole. So in their reasoning, that means that's when Christmas is over and Santa will have to go away. The granddad is like, yeah, but I made this bunker just for, to be hidden. He's like, I didn't make it to be a fortress. So if Santa followed you here, he's going to bust in. There's nothing we can do. So they're having this discussion. And then as they're having that discussion, Christmas carolers come up onto the porch. And they're like, oh, shit. So they go running. They're like, hey, you got to get out of there. Santa's coming. But as they're saying it, Santa pops up, starts killing the Christmas carolers. They're like, oh, fuck. They close the door. They go running back to the basement. Santa, when he busts into the house, finds that gun transformer, and it turns out that he had given that to that girl's dad back in 72. He's like, I gave this to that little fuck, The kids are trying to make a getaway on a snowmobile, but it's not starting on time, so the grandpa just starts talking shit to Santa. And he's like, look at you, you ugly fuck, And then behind the grandpa, he doesn't see that the big bison flying thing or whatever is coming towards him and runs him the fuck over. And of course, this is just so we can finally get a scene where Santa goes, ha ha, Grandpa got run over by a reindeer. Even though it's not a deer. They call it a deer a bunch in this movie. And I'm like, it's a fucking like buffalo or bison. What are y'all talking about? But runs him over. The Santa goes over and like stomps on his head, but you don't see it happen in camera. But the kids are able to start the snowmobile and drive away. They get chased by Santa, who's now flying in the air, throwing down exploding packages onto them. Santa drives through a NRA like skeet shoot and like causes a ruckus. He also then drives into a town meeting with Santas, and once again everyone just runs scared and he knocks over shit. Yeah, there's also a whole story going on with the town preacher who we saw preaching at church earlier and is one of those scumbag guys who's like, give your money to God, And then he was in that strip club earlier. And then later, when at the eulogy, he's like, I know everyone in that strip club is a bad person, but we should forgive him. But he's obviously one of them. And then here he's being a douchebag. And Santa, like, knocks him out and he lands onto his sleigh. And then later, Santa will end up killing him. But that guy's whole story was just included in the movie for no reason, really. The kids go to school where they're going to hide out in school. And they see it's like 58 minutes till midnight. So they're like, all right, let's just stay here. But then they decide that and then immediately go, on second thought, let's go attack them. So then they go outside, but Santa's right there. And they're like, oh, shit. And they go to run away. And Santa, like, breathes a fireball. Like, it was crazy looking. And he goes chasing after them. Now they're back to wanting to hide, so they go into a library and they're ducking down behind books. Excuse me. Santa goes in. He looks up in the corner, and on a mirror in the corner, he can see them hiding behind a thing. So he whips out a smoke grenade, tosses it over. The kids start choking, so they have to run out. Santa starts chasing them again. And then the next thing you know, the kids bust into a hockey rink. The school has a hockey rink. I'm not sure where this movie takes place, but my school didn't have a hockey rink. Which I know, obviously, more snow or cold towns, they probably have that. But, that just seemed weird that they had a whole hockey rink in their school. The kids bust in. They sit down and they start talking about, like, I can't believe Santa's going to kill us, and all that shit. The guy's like, I'm alone now, my granddad is gone or whatever. And the girl's like, you're not alone, you have me. And they finally go to kiss, but before they can kiss, Santa busts onto the rink in the fastest fucking Zamboni I've ever seen in my life. And he comes towards the kids. And they try to run away, but he cuts them off, and he's about to squish them. and then something stops him, and he's like, what the fuck? And he looks down, and it's a curling stone, but it's like an angel curling stone, because it's got like a gold glow around it and stuff, right? So he's like, what? And then you hear like, I thought you wouldn't learn, Santa or whatever. And you look, and the granddad is here now, finally revealed to be the angel from earlier who made the bet with Santa. Apparently, he gave up being an angel to be with a human woman. He was the only person to ever do that. So that's why he was just a normal guy when we saw him, you know. But anyway, the guy's like, I knew you would come looking for me because then you told me you'd search heaven and hell to find me. So I moved to Hellsville, West Virginia, or whatever this is, you know. And Santa's like, that's not how I found you. I found you because of this. And he pulls out a note that is from like 9-year-old kid that's in the back. And wouldn't you know it, this is when we find out that the kid actually did. He goes, you know, I've been real good this year. I would really like an easy bake oven. And so the kid actually really did want that easy bake oven, because that's real. Everyone wanted an easy bake oven. Even if you say you didn't, everyone wanted that. And then he had the address down at the bottom. And so that's how Santa knew where to come to find him. They're like, hey, let's do the bet over again. Granddad's like, if I win this time, you have to be good forever. There is no 1,000 years or whatever, right? And Santa is basically the same thing. He's like, well, if I win, you're going to hell. You're a slave forever. So they're like, all right, let's do it. The grandpa goes first, and he gets it right at the edge. And it's like a perfect curl. Santa looks at it for a minute and like brushes his curling stone, but then doesn't throw it. He just picks up the granddad and slides him across the floor and knocks the granddad into the hole. And they're like, Granddad, no, you know. So then he turns to attack the kids, but they're like, hey, it just turned midnight in the North Pole. But Santa's basically like, fuck you, you know? He's like, Christmas ends when I say it ends, you know? So he goes to attack them, but the kid whips out that nutcracker that I mentioned earlier, and shoots Santa with it, whatever's in it. And it hurts Santa. It like goes into his right shoulder and knocks him down. He's like, ugh. And then he gets up on the Zamboni again and drives away. He like flees the scene. As he leaves, we hear the granddad yelling, and we look, and he's been able to hang on in the hole, and so they pull him back up and save the granddad. Also, as the granddad gets up, he then picks up Santa's curling stone and throws it down in the hole. So I'm not sure if that won the bet for him or what the deal was there, you know? But they go to leave, but the granddad's like, hey, I'm an angel now, you know, I'll be around, but I can't go with you, you know? So he, like, turns an angel and disappears. The two of them then go back to that NRA skeet shoot meeting that we had, where the girl's, like, brother is there and everything. And the kid is like, hey, how would you guys like to be the first person to shoot a deer bird, is what he calls it, you know, flying deer. And once again, I was like, not a deer. This is a bison, or, you know, whatever you want to call it. And so they're like, yeah, let's do it. And so off in the distance, they see Santa flying towards them. And they're like, all right, everyone, get ready. And they start taking pot shots. The girl gives the main kid this, like, sawed-off shotgun with a scope on it. I was like, what is that going to do, you know? But he goes to shoot. Before he can shoot, a rocket flies out of nowhere and blows up Santa. And they're like, what the fuck? And then they turn around, and it's the girl's dad, who's all about getting these exotic weapons and shit. And he's like, woo, Christmas, you know? And so bison guts rain down on them. Everyone's celebrating. The kids finally kiss. And then it fades to black. And you might think that's the end of the movie, but then we get another scene before the credits roll of Santa at the airport buying a ticket back to the North Pole with his sack of presents as his only check-on bag or whatever. And then the credits finally roll. But then after the credits, we do get one last scene of Goldberg sitting there and, like, I think he even looks in the camera and he's like, "Who's next?" You know, which if you don't know anything about Goldberg, that was his big line, was "Who's next?" every time he would beat someone. You know, but that was the end of Santa's sleigh. I saw Bill Goldberg met Wanda Farrington on the set of this movie, and then they married several months afterwards. I don't know if that's still his wife, but I think it is. But I saw that and that was cool. And also I like that she signed on to the movie because she misread it and thought that the movie was starring Jeff Goldblum. And then she got there and they were like, no, it's Bill Goldberg. And she was like, oh. And then they wound up getting married. But I thought that was fun. Best of, worst of for Santa's sleigh. I'm going to say best of. Best of will probably be the opening at dinner. Like, that was probably the most fun I had of the movie. Before I just started not liking it, you know. And then worst of. Worst of would probably be the story with the preacher throughout the movie that I just felt like was unnecessary. I was like, why is this in here, you know? But whatever, you know. So, but that's about it for Santa's sleigh. Like I said, I'm sure other people probably would enjoy it more than I did. I'm not really sure why I didn't like it more. But I don't think they ever made the second one, which is surprising. Because this seems like one of the movies that would get, you know, a couple random sequels or whatever. But I don't think it ever did. I don't know if Goldberg ever made another horror movie. But, you know. Also, if I don't know how many of you watching this went to video stores back in the day. But, you know, I remember this would be one of the box arts I would remember was Santa Sleigh. It was Santa Sleigh and then, like, Jack Frost 2 or something. And they would be, like, side by side somehow all the time. And I would see their box art and be like, ooh, what is this, you know? But, yeah, so, anyway. Alright, well, I hope you guys had a good Christmas. Next week, or coming out Friday, which would still be next week because this is Saturday when this comes out. I don't know what it is right now. Maverick hasn't told me. It's his pick. Yesterday, the Thing podcast came out finally after like 3 weeks. Finally got the computer back. Everything's looking good so far. So we'll see how this is. I'm recording this episode different too. So if audio is weird or something, you know, sorry. This is the first time I'm using what I'm using to record. But anyway, hey, go check out Spider-Man No Way Home too if you haven't already. Before it gets spoiled for you, I had stuff spoiled for me before I went, and it was a shame, but it was real fun. Me and Maverick went over the week and saw it. Also, in other news, I'm super excited for Robert Edgar's new movie, The Northman, that the trailer just dropped, which Robert Edgar's obviously made The Lighthouse, which is one of my favorites, and then The Witch, which, you know, but I'm super excited for this one. I think it's just a straight up like drama adventure. I don't think it's any horror related stuff. That stars Alexander Skarsgård, who was Eric in True Blood. He was also Tarzan in that Tarzan movie that came out a couple years ago. And he's in other stuff. I know he's in that Stand movie they made with Whoopi Goldberg and stuff. His brother Bill Skarsgård is Pennywise in the It movies that just came out. Anya Taylor-Joy is back in it, which some people have theorized that she's going to be playing the character that she played from The Witch, which I don't know if that's true, but the dad from The Witch is also supposed to be in it, but he has an unnamed part, so he might just be a bit role. Willem Dafoe is supposed to be back in it. I'm excited for that. Nicole Kidman's in it. But anyway, go check out the trailer for The Northman. So, anyway. Alright, thanks for watching. Tune in next Friday for whatever comes out, and we will see you guys then. Alright, bye.